Bill Waters, does this Remembrance Day feel a little bit different to you than previous ones in the wake of the Cirillo tragedy?
Yeah, and I'm in the States too, so I've in Florida, so I've witnessed their Veterans Day, and they're much more serious about it than they have been in the past, in my estimation. But I'm with Tony. I think the big news is the number of people that came out to celebrate Remembrance Day, and more importantly, commemorate the lost life of Cirillo, Nathan Cirillo, in a very tragic accident. I think that's wonderful from the city of Ottawa and Canadians in general. So I was pleased to hear that. I didn't catch any of it on the news down here, but that's a major and significant statement by a wonderful country.
Absolutely.
I think not to offend anybody, throughout all the years that Remembrance Day has been celebrated here in Canada, it's been great. They've honored people who have put their lives on the line and have died to keep this country a country. But I think because of what happened in Ottawa this year, it really changed the dynamics and affected the youth, all aspects of Canadians. It hit home. It really made them realize that Remembrance Day is not just another day that the government has put aside for propaganda. It's actually the real deal, and it's affected me as a Canadian completely different this year than any other year. I've always had a big affection for the Canadian Armed Forces,
Yes.
and but this year it's just unbelievably bizarre on how this soldier was murdered.
Yeah. And
yeah, especially when it happens in your own backyard. I mean, I had
100%. I mean, it's family.
Yeah, so many.
Family. He's Canadian. We're Canadian, and it's like we lost a member of our family. And I think all Canadians realize what Remembrance Day is now, and it's horrible that this young soldier was murdered at the nation's capital, minding his own business, doing something to volunteer. He volunteered his time.
Ambushed and shot in the back too by a scumbag.
Yeah, it's horrific. I mean, it is just one of the most it's probably one of the most horrific things that have happened, and it will be infamous for the rest of our lives in history that it took place. And he was a sitting duck, and so was his partner. Like they had no way to defend themselves.
Frank D'Angelo, the man with the plan, now on the line, joining us here. Frank, do you think that this turnout this year, the 50,000, they say usually it's around 30, 35. Do you think that this is a one thing because of the Cirillo tragedy, or is this a renewal of our patriotism all around?
I really think that, like I said before, I mean, all of us, we go through the motions of different things that go on over the 52 weeks. Some things are more important to you than others. But, Remembrance Day, I think every Canadian is patriotic of the country. We have a great country, and I love it. I just think after this tragedy, it just made a lot of people realize what soldiers do. I mean, without soldiers, you have no freedom. They protect us. And they go and fight these wars for humanity, Canadians. And what they did in Normandy is unbelievable. And what they're doing now in the Middle East, and we're not known as a military country. We're very, very passive, but it's still necessary. And I think that I really believe that this is not just a one-time thing. I think that what happened to the young soldier, both soldiers, losing their lives like that for no reason. I think people will respect November the 11th for much, or take a look at it way more serious than just another day that passes by. And I think it also showed how Canadians were appalled that one of the big American chains was having a Remembrance Day sale.
That's right, the Gap
and everybody jumped all over it, which they should be, because I think it's disrespectful to market and brand through a day that should be a day of reflection and be very somber and respect the people who died, never came back. I can't imagine what it's like for the families in Canada to go to Normandy and see one of their family members buried there.
And that's an interesting question.
I was moved Saturday night. I'm not moved often by Grapes of Chauve. I've always enjoyed them, but his little in Flanders Fields when he had the words about our fallen soldiers and all the white crosses row on row, and then says, "Surely you can buy a poppy." I think this has reinvigorated the meaning and the purpose of the poppy. And I think
100%, and you're bang on, Billy. I think he did a great job. I know Don Cherry personally. He's a friend of mine, and he's always been a big fan of the military. We played in Ottawa. We did all the military bases, and we called him and we said, "Can you do us a favor? Can you just make us a video to thank them? I know you can't come personally because it was a Saturday night and he was doing the game." And they did he did a big, like, it must have taken about 4 or 5 hours to put that thing together. And I agree with you. I don't get emotionally attached to stuff on television when you see it. It's almost very commercial, but he was extremely sincere, and it affected me. And it was quite surreal to see all those rows of Canadians buried, not in their own country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and some of them unknown.
Right.
That's right.
I mean, the significance.
And a poppy is, I think, a very good symbol of respect, and it's a great way to give back to the veterans who deserve it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you know what? I thought as Grapes was saying that, you don't say how much is the poppy. You look in your pocket and say how much can I give?
Right.
Can I give?
I don't think it's ever been in my modest experience. The veterans that are giving away or giving their time and they're donating their time to selling these poppies. Whatever. If you have 10 cents, you give them 10 cents. If you have $10, it's whatever you feel in your heart, right? That you can donate. There's no fixed price on a poppy.
And I think you got to respect Don Cherry too. He's not a seasonal guy when it comes to military. He is all in 365 days.
100%. He's a very and I believe when he gets choked up and when we've lost Canadians over in Afghanistan and he's had to report it during Hockey Night in Canada and he gets choked up. That's not acting. That's Don Cherry. He's talking from the heart.
Mm-hmm. And it very.
He has a family that were involved. I think his father fought in the Second World War or in the First, and he has a history, and it's a genuine one. And I'm with you. When he lists the young men that have lost their lives, emotion is not one that's put on. That's for sure.
No, it was absolutely genuine. And another great moment when they had both the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Ottawa Senators visit the War Memorial together on Saturday prior to the game. Tony House, Steve Keogh was talking about this. Steve Keogh, of course, the Director of Media Relations for the Leafs, but he's an Ottawa boy. I know you know that.
Yeah.
Also a former Director of UFC Canada's PR as well. But what was that feeling like for people in Ottawa, just seeing that, you know, there's a heated rivalry between the Maple Leafs and the Senators, but they were able to put little things aside like the game of hockey and stand together for something bigger. What was that feeling?
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, hockey's just a game, and I mean, now you're showing the collaboration and the solidarity of being, not even just hockey players. I mean, you're talking pro athletes coming, all over the world coming together. And don't forget, when this thing went down in Ottawa, Toronto Maple Leafs were at the Westin Hotel downtown. So, to actually have them come back and do this, I just think it was a tremendous, a symbol of solidarity, and that, whether you're Canadian, Danish, Scottish, Irish, whatnot, that you're going to, go to that place where a tragedy happened, when you were actually in town when it did happen. Two teams with, as you said, hated rivals, but you know what? This brings us all together, and I think it was a hell of a moment.
I'm very impressed with all the Canadians that paid their respects to where the soldier had been murdered, and then everybody who donated their time to get it ready for Remembrance Day, and in looking and everything the way it's been covered, it's very classy, it's very sincere, and I think that the news media in Canada have covered this in a sincere way.
Yeah, there's been
an honest way.
Yes, it's been very understated almost, which is almost kind of the Canadian way, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, yes, and I tell you, it's quite. It makes you feel very, very sad, and then in another moment, it makes you feel very proud to be Canadian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's been an emotional roller coaster, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And Frank,
for Canadians, and especially.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier about the Gap wanting to run a Remembrance Day sale and the backlash against that. Bill, you're in Florida right now. I've never spent a November in the States before. I've had the good fortune to spend other time there. But are there Veterans Day sales? Is that a thing that happens?
That's the norm. It's the norm. In the United States, it's very normal for Veterans Days sales going on in the big department stores and the big chains.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a proliferation of them. They never stop. And I'm not pleased, but I'm happy that the Canadians put up a bit of a fuss about it, because
they put up a big fuss. They're very upset.
Yeah, and so they should be. They're upset down here because now they want to stay open on Thanksgiving Day, the big stores, and the American people aren't happy with that. There are some days that you should take time to reflect and to respect what has gone on in the past and part of your history. One of them is Remembrance Day.
Yeah. I think it's great that the government is going to put that to a vote where they're going to make it a statutory holiday, because it deserves it. It's not a religious holiday, so you're not going to piss off different people who follow different beliefs, right? This is something that represents the country that you live in, the country that you should respect, and you should be proud to be Canadian. And I think it's. I really like the way for the sacrifice that these two soldiers have made. They've united the country, mm-hmm. and they've put us on high alert too. They sacrificed their lives. I read somewhere, and I didn't read too much because it just the headline pissed me off, that they didn't want to consider Cirillo a hero.
Who said that?
It was in the paper. It was some reporter wrote it that he, it was terrible what happened, but he shouldn't be classified as a hero. Mm. And it's bizarre how people put spins on things out of their own stupidity.
Yeah, I mean,
he is a hero. I think it's one of the most devastating things that could happen. Losing a soldier, let alone losing a soldier on his own turf, on his own home.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to play semantics with the word hero or not, but the fact of the matter is he lost his life, serving his country. There's not much more heroic way to go out than that.